Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jordan here with another Warhammer Total War online commentary. In this particular ladder battle, I will be piloting the Vampire Counts. So definitely a faction I haven't played much of, but I'm definitely looking forward to exploring some different strategies with them in this particular meta, and I think they got some fun stuff going on. So facing off against a Greenskin opponent, and he actually brought a lot of monstrous units, and unfortunately for me, I didn't bring much anti-large, so it actually ends up being quite a slugfest. So you guys are in for a treat. As far as my front line goes, I brought zombies. So again, I wanted to bring a lot of fodder just to send in there. It actually pays off pretty well because against these monstrous units like the Giant and the Ragnarok Spider, these zombies are, quite effective fodder. There's a lot of them, and there's a lot of targets for those Giants. And again, the Giants aren't going to generate the most value from these type of units, so we will see how they do. In the secondary line, I brought Graveguard, just standard armored shielded. I figured he might have Goblin Wolf Riders or Night Goblin Archers or something like that, or Doomdiver Catapults, but he actually didn't bring any of that. So again, that was another issue for me, but regardless, I have a back line of Graveguards here. And then I wanted to try something new. I've actually never really used the Crypt Ghouls, but they do have quite a bit of weapon strength and also do pretty decent damage. But what I really wanted to do was bring a back line of these guys that, and again, they have very high speed. It's actually 38. When you look at Graveguard, they have 28 speed, and Biggins are around the same. The Savage Orcs are also very fast. I think they're around 37. The Black Orcs are 29. So I wanted to engage with this front line of fodder and just kind of have them hold the line. And then I wanted to flank with these Crypt Ghouls and get behind the opponent's troops and use their poison effect to, its maximum potential. Because they do apply that poison, which, is pretty decent against, high-value infantry. So I have a back line of Crypt Ghouls here. I have a White King, and then I also have two groups of Cryptors. So these guys are armor piercing as well as poison. So I have a lot of poison supplementation in my army, and I do think that these Cryptors will be pretty good against the heavily armored troops over here. He does have some Black Orcs. So as far as my leadership goes, I have a Vampire Lord with the Lord of Vampires, and I brought the Gaze of Nagash, the Winds of Death, and I think I brought Invocation into Heck. Yeah, so the other spells I don't usually bother bringing. Again, it's a good way to pinch pennies and really save some money with that. So then I brought two groups of Vargeists. So I wanted to just be able to dive bomb pertinent targets and, take out his shaman or, deal with cavalry. I actually like Vargeists against cavalry. I feel like they usually do a pretty good job and, can plug in that way. So as far as my opponent's army composition goes, he has Orc, Boar, Boy, Biggins. It's quite a tongue twister. He's got some Black Orcs here, Orc Biggins, a Ragnarok Spider, additional Black Orcs, some Savage Orcs, and then on the far side he has Black Orcs. So a very, very elite army. Not a lot of density, but very, very tough troops across the board, with an Ragnarok Spider here, and I think for his leadership he has Azog the Slaughterer, who he actually decided to keep on the ground, which I think in this matchup is quite smart. If he had Azog in the air, I could have just easily taken him down with these Vargeists, so definitely very well played in terms of my opponent's tacticianship. He has an Orc Shaman here with the Big Wah. He has, it looks like Foot of Gork, there we go, and the Gaze as well, so should be interesting here. And then on the far side he also has another group of Orc, Boar, Boy, Biggins. So definitely a very tough army, but one thing that'll be good for me is the fact that I do have a lot of poison. And against these high-value infantry, the poison, I think, is very cost-effective. So let's get started. So my opponent opens up with a missile attack, magic missile. He does hit the Vampire Lord, but thankfully it does not do pretty much any damage. Let me take a look here. It did a little bit, but nothing to write home about. So our armies are just advancing on one another. We're both playing aggressive factions, and neither of us brought any range, really. I mean, of course, I can't, but he didn't bring range either. So I immediately see that he's kind of parking his cavalry here, so I split up my Vargeists because I wanted to be able to react and see what... I didn't want to land right away and just have him engage on me. I wanted to just feel him out. And my opponent does use Fate of Yuna on the Vargeist, which is pretty good. It'll do decent damage to them, but again, it actually doesn't look like it's doing much, but usually it does. And I'm just flying them over here to match his cavalry, and that's how I'd like to use Vargeist in this particular matchup. Again, in every matchup, they're going to have different purposes and different use, but in this one, I'd like to do this, and it definitely helps me shut down his cavalry, as the Vargeists have really good combat stats. They have, 100 weapon strength, definitely a lot more than these Orc, Boar, Boy, Biggins, and they should be able to take them out quite easily. So once my troops get close enough, I go ahead and land them and engage his cavalry, which essentially shuts him down from doing any funny business. And I did try a Winds of Death, and he moved just when I cast it, and I definitely missed out on the value train there, but hey, fortune favors the bold. You got to try these things. So at the same time, as you guys can see, I'm sending the Crypt Ghouls around this flank, and then I also send the Crypt Horrors after his Black Orcs and this Ragnarok Spider, because again, the armor piercing, I'm definitely going to need that. And this other group of Crypt Ghouls here, I'm sending around the outside flank. So again, a very fast unit, kind of like Forsaken with Chaos. So they usually do pretty well for me. Over here, I'm chasing his units with the Vargeist. I'm just going to keep after him the whole game and really pressure him, and that forces your opponent to micro a lot more, which is definitely tough and kind of burdensome. over here, these Vargeist were able to tear up those Orc Boy Biggins, and these guys then land and are able to re-engage here. So definitely a favorable matchup for me. Over here, these Crypt Ghouls are finally getting around the flank, and I want to get them right behind before I engage. And you guys can immediately see these guys are going to take a little bit of a hit here in terms of their weapon strength and their speed, and also from their leadership. So hopefully that poison effect will be enough to give these Graveguard a fighting chance against the superior Black Orc. My opponent does have his Giant here, which is laying a bit of a beatdown on some of my Graveguard here. Right here in the center, he absolutely just crushed my group here. He had Azog as well as Black Orcs, so that group of Graveguard just got absolutely demolished, so they're going to be coming over and engaging here. These Graveguard are holding up pretty well considering, and the Cryptors are on the mix, and they do have armor piercing, and you can see they are applying their poison on some of these units in here. I know they were before, but it's going pretty tough here in the melee line. His Black Orcs, and he did bring a lot of elite infantry, but regardless, that flank was so effective with these Crypt Ghouls. It poisoned them, which gave my, inferior troops a little bit of a fighting chance. And again, those zombies absorbed a lot of the shock from those Black Orcs. And that's the problem with having only Black Orcs, is if the fodder is able to engage and tie them up, you can then follow up with these monstrous Cryptors who are very good at fighting among other troops. So now it kind of becomes a Death Star battle, as you guys can see. The troops are essentially just coming in here, which actually isn't bad for his Giant and other troops like that. And over here, the same thing basically happened. Those Graveguard as well as the Crypt Ghouls were able to really dismantle this group of Black Orcs, and I got a lot of good value out of that. And thankfully for me, I didn't have to worry about getting rear charged or anything like that because the Vargeist were able to take care of his cavalry quite well. So as you guys can see, he still has his Black Orcs, he has Ere We Go and the Wa, so his troops are hitting like trucks right now. And you can see that, a lot of my guys are getting the beat down. These Vargeist are starting to take a little bit of damage. Over here, I still have a lot of zombies, which is great because, every biggin that's hitting a zombie is just a complete waste for him. So the one issue is he still has this really healthy Arachnarok Spider, but it is starting to take leadership hits. Its friends are routing, and there have been quite a few army losses. If you look at the breakdown, I still have 365 troops. A lot of those are zombies, and his numbers are definitely starting to tank a little bit, but regardless, my zombies are starting to crumble, so he does get these Black Orcs in here with the Stand Your Ground. And I did notice just now that Azog was still alive, and normally when I'm playing against him, you look for his Skull Muncher, and it was kind of harder to see him when he's intermixed here. And unfortunately for me, these Orc Boar Boy Biggins actually come back, and I had my Vampire Lord chasing them, and I didn't want to get him down there and get him tangled up with all this, so I was kind of keeping him above and just casting Invocation of Nehek every chance that I got. So thankfully I was able to clean up that group of Black Orcs over there. You can see they're broken now, and I bring in these Graveguard and the Vargeist in here, and I'm able to just start targeting down this Giant with my Vargeists and the my other melee troops, and it's going pretty well. Its leadership is quite low. It's taken serious damage, and it's just about to rout. So that was definitely working out well for me, and that's something that's nice about the Vampire accounts is pretty much all their units cause fear. So in these really, really tight battles, a lot of times you can win strictly off the morale hit. So I was definitely reaping the benefits of that, and you can see the Giant here is about to go down. The Vargeist, did a pretty decent job against it, so definitely can't complain. And more importantly, it was because of the fodder mainly, because the Giant, I was watching it, when I was playing, and it was hitting a lot of zombies. A lot of its melee attacks were going into those zombies, and that paid off pretty well for me. So over here, pretty much the only thing that's left is this Arachnarok Spider. And of course, I believe his Lord is still alive. I think Azog is here. He still has the Orc Shaman. He has some Black Orcs coming back, and I think I'm trying to find Azog. Yeah, he's right here. So he's kind of getting surrounded right now, actually. So I dive him with the Vargeist and my Vampire Lord, and it was still a close battle. I mean, honestly, if he had done a little more damage to my Vampire Lord earlier, this could have gone in his direction. He has a fairly healthy Arachnarok Spider. He has some units on route back there that he should have been cycling back. And, this Giant is pretty low, but again, he could have pathed it back, and it could have made a little bit of a difference here. But as you guys can see, the Invocation of Nehek is doing quite well. Such a valuable asset to the Vampire accounts. I just am a huge fan of it. So right here, the Arachnarok Spider is finally starting to waver. I didn't have any anti-large units per se, so this was a very atrocious battle for me to take out this unit. But finally, when Azog goes down, its leadership, in conjunction with the fear that the Vampire accounts bring, was able to finally take it out. So quite a battle. And kind of the unspoken MVP of this game was the zombies. They took, as you can see, these Black Orcs got a ton of kills, but most of those kills were from the zombies, which was definitely good. And these Cryptors, though they didn't get a ton of kills, they were both able to circle in their respective flanks and then poison the Black Orcs from the rear, cause fear, and really helped these Graveguard to actually just cut through those Black Orcs. So that was very cost effective for me. The Graveguard did quite well. They held the line, did their piece, while these more valuable units were able to get in there. But regardless, this one Graveguard unit got absolutely demolished. He actually had a Giant, he had Azog, and everything just take it out. So that was well played on my opponent's part. And these Cryptors also did pretty good. Again, they did get taken out. My opponent had a lot of elite armor-piercing infantry and all that kind of stuff. But I would say another big deciding factor was how ineffective his cavalry were against the Vargas. So that was definitely a tough situation there. But regardless, that Arachnarok Spider did some serious work. And personally, I just think it's exponentially better than the Giant, but that's just my 2 cents. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Good game to Peter. Look forward to seeing you again on Ladder, and appreciate the support, guys. Have an excellent night, and take care.